All right, 1 2 1 2. We're back here in the CJLO studios, and direct from Miami, we got the one and only Eddie Perez. Eddie, are you with me? How you doing, Eddie?
Good. Can't complain.
All right, man. All right. Well, thank you for calling in tonight. It's a very special edition of Salvation from Sin, which is my radio show. We've been on the air here at CJLO for just a little bit over a year. And tonight we are paying tribute to you, Eddie Perez, as well as, of course, all your several different aliases, Mentalinstrum, Smack Music, Many Moods of Black, so on and so forth. So big up to you.
I appreciate it. Really appreciate it, man. You're doing great things up there, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Eddie. All right, well, Eddie, let's get cracking here, because not only do we want to speak to you, but I still got a lot in my crates here that I want to play before 3 a.m.
Okay.
All right, my man. So, Eddie, for the people who don't know, I mean, Montreal has always been kind of house music mecca, and lots of people in the early 90s were really, really getting down to your sound here in the city, and maybe, perhaps, possibly didn't even know who they were getting down to. Of course, the DJs knew, but the dancers may not have. So a lot of the dancers that are tuned in and want to know a little bit more about you, let us know, how did you get into music? How did all this start for you?
Well, for the most part, I started out by playing keyboards. I was playing, I started when I was like 15, 16, playing like in Latin bands in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I was playing like in salsa bands and merengue bands in New York. So that's kind of like how I got into music. How I got into house music was I got actually invited to a session. One of my first sessions was working on a Divas album.
Okay.
Like one of my first house music, sessions, and it was Mike Cameron was producing it and stuff like that. So he would tell me what to play and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about house music. I thought it was just like R&B,
Right. The legendary Adiva.
Yeah. Adiva was the first project that I really got down on.
All right.
Which is good to start off, at that top-notch stuff, So, and then what happened was right after that, I got schooled in house music right then and there, because I would go to the guys would take me out to places for me to go listen to people like Tony Humphries and stuff like that, just to really get into the music. And so I kind of that was my school. Go to Zanzibar, and listen to what Tony was doing, and just go back to the studio and pretty much do house records.
All right.
That's how I was exposed to that. So for the most part, that's kind of like how I really, really developed and started getting into my own stuff.
So basically, you're going out, checking out DJs, and getting basically inspired.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, in those days, the guys who were rocking, Tony Humphries was doing his thing, and I used to love going to see Naeem Johnson. Naeem Johnson is one of my favorite DJs.
Naeem Johnson, of course.
Yeah, he actually is one of my all-time favorite, DJs.
Wow.
See him and Nick Jones.
Yeah, Nick Jones.
At the Wild Pitch parties. And in the Wild Pitch parties, it would be Camacho and Disciple also playing there also. So those are the guys, pretty much the guys who were all the hot guys at the time. And even Bobby Condors, before his whole reggae, he would play house music also.
Right, of course.
And it was great. It was a good time. It was a good time to learn,
And, for those who don't know, Eddie Perez, you definitely have a cult following on a worldwide basis, kind of like on the same level the way Blaze has a cult following, the way Moody Man has a cult following. Eddie Perez and anything associated and affiliated with you, people are paying big bucks for your used records and whatnot. Because you do have a signature sound. Like when you hear an Eddie Perez record, that's Eddie Perez. How did you kind of develop your signature, your kind of forte sound that we've all, come to learn and love?
Well, what happened was, after a while, after, still doing the smack stuff, we would do all the main vocal stuff together, like the vocal stuff. That's something we would do together. But then the Mentalinstrum stuff came out to be more my stuff. So that's why you hear all the dubs or Mentalinstrum and and some of the harder stuff was pretty much just me by myself. But then what happened is I once I got my hands on an SP1200, started doing sampling hip hop records to do house records.
Right.
Like all my snares and all. I might be giving away all the secrets now, but I don't really care. But like all the snares and all the hi hats and most of the dingy sounds I would sample from hip hop records. And most of those records, the hip hop records I was sampling were all records that were samples themselves.
Of course.
So for the most part, that's kind of like that was pretty much the sound. And then also as far as the keyboards were concerned, it was kind of like just trying to make things sound still in key, whereas if I was playing my chords in a way whereas if it still went with the vocal and it still had some kind of soul to it.
Right.
But then at the same time, it was mainly the combination of that and just the rough drums, those the 8-bit drums coming out of the SP1200.
Yeah, and I mean,
which I recently put out a sample pack of that. If you go to TrackSource,
right,
there's a sample pack of all the samples from the SP1200, all my original S1000 samples.
Wow.
On there and stuff like that. And I had a couple of people get mad at me saying, why am I giving them away? And my whole thing was I could give you all the tools. It's up to you to have soul. It's up to you to make it happen.
Exactly.
Well
Well said.
I can give you all the parts to build a Ferrari, but can you build a Ferrari? You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
kind of like how it is. So
true that.
for the most part, the sound was just pretty much that. And there's a lot of good things happening in those days, man, that you could feed off of. Like Masters at Work and Mood to Swing. All these guys were all like, to me, were like hot guys in New York. So.
Yeah, I guess they were. Everyone was kind of going up to bat, and everyone had to kind of stay on their toes back then.
Nah, but it was. But the thing is, there was really no competition. Everybody really respected each other's things. Right. I would have. It's weird to have somebody like Louis Vega tell you about a chord that he likes that you did of a track that maybe you didn't think that he listened to, and he'd be like, "Oh, this thing you did here and this and that." He'll tell you about that, and you'd be like, "Okay," it makes you feel good. It kind of made your day. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that, man.
So it was cool times.
Well, going back to the way you're kind of breaking down, there's your stuff. So there's for the people who don't know, there's the Eddie Perez productions. Such as some of the stuff you put out on Shelter and then on Cutting Records, just Eddie Perez. And then, a lot of the stuff on labels such as, Music Station and Music USA was more the kind of Mentalinstrum vibe. Most of these records kind of had both, right? You'd have a Smack mix and then a Mentalinstrum mix.
Yeah. That's pretty much how.
But Mentalinstrum was basically you and Mike Cameron, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much, it was kind of like him and I, and sometimes it was Goody also. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was kind of like, it was more. I was the one who came up with the name, with the Mentalinstrum name, and that was kind of like the one I wanted to develop that more. So, but then whenever something was kind of more tracky, we would call it Mentalinstrum. When it was more vocal, we would call it Smack.
Right, and so, Smack was kind of like a bigger crew, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
It's pretty much 3 of us.
Okay.
But then it was 4. It was pretty much Mike, Goody, and I. But then after a while, Healy would do some stuff too, also.
Right, Major Healy.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it.
Was John Robinson ever the late John Robinson? Was he ever affiliated in a sense that?
Yeah, John was in the he was in BLS.
Okay.
He had a midday mix every day on BLS, and he was really close, to us one way or another because, he had real good ears. We play him stuff first, and then I'll play keyboards for him. I worked on that Spring thing for him, and he was. I mean, it was a good click because it was him. It was Paul Simpson also.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of. Paul Simpson pretty much taught me how to arrange records.
Oh, really?
Paul Simpson, yeah. Because I had all these good teachers around me. I was the youngest guy there. I was 19, 18, and these guys were all who were, Paul Simpson's if you really think about it, Paul Simpson was the first David Morales type of guy as far as remixes are concerned.
Really? Yeah, it's true.
Paul Simpson's one of the first guys to charge $20,000 for a remix.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, like yeah, like Paul Simpson's team was the same team that Morales used to have, like Terry Burrows on the keyboards,
Right.
John Papo mixing. That was Paul Simpson's team.
Wow.
You know, so Paul was, but you know, Paul's one of the first guys to teach me how to arrange a record and still keep it R&B. You know, but you can still do dance. You know, he's like, that's what he taught me. And we had like, you know, Mike Cameron's a DJ. You know, pretty much, and I always get the DJ perspective. You know, from that.
Right.
And then Goody was more of a technical engineer guy, and he taught me how to, you know, how to use the equipment.
So y'all fed off of each other, basically.
Yeah, it was great because these are all guys. You know, I was the youngest one there, but these are all guys who, you know, who taught me. Like Goody was the one who taught me how to use the computer. I didn't even know how to use a computer. He was the one who taught me how to use it. And so after a while, we just started kind of like, you know, gelling and stuff like that.
Right. Going back to the John Robinson thing, you guys had put out a John Robinson Presents Mentalinstrum, an EP, I think it was in 94, if I'm not mistaken, 93 or 94.
Yeah.
On I think that was on his label, on John Robinson's label, right?
On his label, yeah.
Not Us Records. How did John's passing?
Excuse me?
We got a little.
Oh, all right, Dad. Sorry.
How did I wanted to ask
Eric,
you?
get off the phone, Eric. I'm sorry.
It's all good. That's fine. John Robinson's passing. How did that in any way? Obviously, it affected you, and it affected the entire house music community. But in terms of you know, your music production and whatnot, how did that work out for you back then when you heard that tragic news?
You know what happened? See, this is how we had like an open door policy at the studio, and the best thing to do is to bring a DJ into the studio when you're doing a record because you get that ear, you know. And John used to always come to the studio like, you know, maybe twice a week and just do like we'll be working on something else altogether, and he'll come in and do a pass with us and stuff like that. And how it affected, you know, us was that we didn't have that extra set of ears.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? And then, but John was a soul guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he, like even the original "So Into You" that Michael Wofford.
All right.
That was his. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was his, and then that, you know, that was him saying, "I got an idea for a record."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like that, having that extra set of ears, and then John saying, you know, that he liked it when he'll take it, and the very next day it'll be on BLS.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? So like that was that, and apart from that, you know, it's a friend. You know.
Of course.
When you lose a friend, it's not a good thing.
And John, of course, had the WBLS. He was on WBLS FM. He had it was called the Midday Mix, right?
Every day. He was there every day playing house music.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it was, you know, it was good, man. And then he'd also, you know, even if he didn't feel too strong about a record, you'd be like, John, I want you to push this for me.
All right.
Like he'll be like, then at least let me do an edit. Let me, you know, let's try to get it to work where I could play. And you know, it just, you know, he helped you. You know. So, and not to mention that, you know, I used to go by his house and play keyboards and do stuff for him, and it was great.
Well, definitely rest his soul. Rest in peace, John Robinson. I'm gonna be sometime soon. I'm gonna definitely do a John Robinson tribute show the way I'm doing tonight as well, and pay respect also to his homeboy Willie Wall, who's also a good friend. But you're mentioning how you were sampling hip hop records. What kind of hip hop records were you listening to back in the days?
I mean, it was a good time for hip hop too, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, anything. I mean, I could be listening to any record. I would, you know, back in the day, you would buy records just for a piece, but then when you're a producer, you'll buy a whole record for a snare or for a hi-hat or for a clap, you know.
Oh yeah.
So like I had a whole bunch of hip hop records and rag groove records that I just would buy just for you know, a sample, you know. So like, you know, anything around that time was, you know, I sampled snares from Dr. Dre, from Biggie, from everything, you know, just whatever was hot at the time.
Besides house music, obviously house music is your forte. But on your free time, what do you like to get down to? What do you like to listen to when, let's say, I don't know, you're in the car, you're at home just chilling? What are some of the sounds you listen to these days?
As of lately, I listen lot of worship music,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of worship music. I mean, that's kind of like, I produce other things also. I have 2 acts signed to Sony that are Latin-based acts, and
Wow.
so I do that. That's kind of like house music is what kind of like taught me that there's no limits to no rules really to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been able to apply that to other genres that are that might make more money, but it's not really where my heart is.
Right.
So, but for the most part, to pay the bills, I do other things, and I also engineer, and so.
Yeah.
But as of lately, I've been listening to more worship music and stuff like that.
Worship music. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because of where I'm at spiritually, that type of stuff. But for the most part, it's either that or just straight like Miles Davis jazz or Coltrane and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What do you are you planning on a couple of what happened is that we kind of didn't hear from you for a while, and I guess this was around 2000 to about 2005. I might be wrong on the actual dates, but I remember a common friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours in France, put out a record called Where's Eddie?
Ismo.
Ismo, yeah. Ismo, also known as Brother, put out an EP called Where Is Eddie EP on 90s Records, which is, I think, Henri Fontaine's label, if I'm not mistaken. And soon after that, we saw kind of the re-emergence of Eddie Perez. And not too long after that, like on Track Source, we started seeing, you started putting out some tracks, old tracks, new tracks. Did Ismo have any?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, between Ismo and Brian at Track Source, because what happens is I've known Brian for years and stuff like that. And, Brian from Sulfuric, they're the same people who run
Brian
Track
Tappert,
Source.
okay, yeah.
And so what happens with Brian is we just hang out. It wasn't even anything about me doing music. Brian would come by the house, when my kids' birthdays, that type of stuff, more of a family thing. And then he was always telling me, why don't you put some of the stuff out? Why don't you put some of the stuff out? I'm like, what for? It's like, I'm doing other things. He's like, no, can I just, get your dads together and let's put some of the stuff in. Never did anything. And then Ismo contacted me, him and Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy from My Lover's Underground.
Yeah, big shout to them.
And so they contacted me about, hey, you got some stuff, some exclusive stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll send you some things. And we started talking, and I get that every once in a while, be it that it's Ismo, or be it somebody from Japan, or be it somebody from Montreal. The old stuff and the old stuff. But to me, the problem that I had with a lot of those old records was that since that scene wasn't as strong in New York as it was in the rest of the world, I never really heard a lot of those records outside the studio, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. A lot of records that I would do, I would never hear again. Just in the studio, you get the check, whatever label puts it out, but you never hear it again. Because you couldn't go out to a club and listen to that. Because there was no club for that.
I find that hard. Like, wow, I'm trying to wrap my
that's the truth.
mind around that.
That's the truth. And so, what I did was, Ismo wanted to come here for Winter Music Conference in Miami. I said, well, you come stay at my house.
All right.
So to him, it was like, he was elated. He was all, so I said, let's go through some of these dads. So we started going through some of these dads, and he was telling me the titles of the records that I did that I didn't remember. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I have the dads. I'm saying, what is this? I don't remember. I don't even, because they're not even labeled. And he's telling me this is and that, and telling me all the years and everything. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, Ismo's a maniac.
Yeah, but he's, they're purists,
Yeah.
They're purists. I mean, they're purists to a certain extent that they're somewhat militant when it comes to the sound, which is good. Is good, for that. I remember having that fever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's something that, I told him, I said, hey, man, when you got to still keep it fun, you know what I'm saying? You can't really, that's the only way you could expand the sound is by still keeping it fun and keeping it friendly. They're very, 200, vinyl copies exclusive of that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, guys, you know, you need to kind of like, that's one of the things that kind of like made this thing.
Yeah.
The problem with house music to me was that it became cliquish, very cliquish and stuff like that. And so if you wasn't part of a certain clique, it kind of like didn't work. So I mean, and the problem was that we were in Jersey. We were kind of like, we weren't even in New York. We were like in Jersey, but we decided to do like, you know, a lot of records. Just do as many as we can, you know, and do as many as we can, just kind of like flood the market. So a lot of those records we would sell, we would never, you know, they just became, you know, 3,000 copies, and you never heard of them again. So it's kind of like they got lost.
All right.
You know what I'm trying to say? So, I mean, it wasn't good for let's say for today's numbers. For, you know, 3,000 copies in those days was amazing. You know?
Yeah, of course. Now it's difficult. You know.
But Ismo's the best, man. He's all of a sudden he's become family. You know.
Yeah, Ismo actually. I'm sure he's going to be listening to this, but a couple of weeks back, just to kind of give you an indication of Ismo, who is from France. I was chatting with him recently because I myself, I'm a vinyl junkie like him, and you know, we usually you know exchange our lists to try and see if we can pull off some trades. And he has a record that I'm looking for, and he has like 3 copies of it. It's like a Japanese record. And he refuses to sell it to me. He says, I only want to trade. So just to the extent, like, he knows how badly I want it, and he has 3 copies, but he just refuses to put a price tag on them. He goes, I want to trade wax for wax.
He's a good guy, though, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah, those Jaren is definitely, they're doing it proper in France right now. With their label.
They're purists, you know. So.
Yeah, their label is called My Love Is
They're the ones always telling me, you got to do this, you got to do things like I was back in the day. I was like, look, man, I'm not the same person that I was then. That's the thing. It's like, you know, I'm not musically, I'm not the same person, you know.
Yeah.
It's just too, you know, it's just where I'm at today is totally different, you know.
Right. So you feel like, you know, yeah, you've evolved, you've moved on. You don't have that fever. You mentioned that word before. That's a pretty good word. You don't have that fever anymore for that earlier sound there.
No. I hear stuff, man. Let me tell you something, man. People send me stuff all day on, like, you know, people who think that I would like something because it sounds like my old stuff.
All right.
They send me stuff all the time. I'm talking about from all around the world, from London, especially from London, and from Paris, you know, from Japan. I get a whole bunch of demos from people. You know, I said, look, but I would much rather you send me something that's just something that I've never heard before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's still raw. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're going to send me something that's going to sound like what I did, I'd rather just listen to what I did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like, I'm not to really toot my own horn. I'm just saying that it's just, don't copy me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to move music forward. You know, if you're going to give me a choice between the past or the future, I'm always going to choose the future.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the past is cool. You know what I'm saying? It's good to reminisce, but the music has to be moved forward, not backward. You know, so a lot of this retro stuff is cool because you know, it's kind of like you're trying to figure out how people did things, but I think that you'd rather if you just do your own thing until it works, it's a lot better. You know, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
All right. Do you I mean, do you realize that you have a cult following? Do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but it's not like it's no biggie, man. It's like, and I think it wasn't really it wasn't like I invented something that, you know, like cured you know, something, or, you know, a sickness. I mean, it was just music. And at the end of the day, when I talk to people and they ask me how I did that and how I did this, I'm like, I think that it's almost like not knowing the rules helped you develop your own sound.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know, and I had the same kind of conversation with another producer, but he's a big producer, and we were talking about it, and he was telling me, hey, you know, I was playing some of my earlier stuff. He was like, oh, man, that's amazing. We started talking about his stuff. And I said, look, when you're at a point where you're like a blank sheet and you're new at it, and you have to develop your own sound, and you don't know, it's like, necessity is the mother of all invention. You'll start to try new things, you know what I'm saying, because you just don't know. So I tell some guys, just stay blank, don't even let nothing else influence you. You should just do your own thing, And just when somebody asks you why does it sound like that, well, I meant it to sound that way. This is how it works. And you just tell them. As long as it's in key, and kind of groovy, it's gonna work.
All right.
I was talking to the guys from Gorilla Science. They're from Toronto. I put out an EP on Mentalinstrum. Those guys are, they're doing their thing, and it's like they're asking me for advice. I'm like, no, I contacted you because I like what you were doing already.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of advice is that? I like what you were doing. Just keep on doing you.
Keep on doing, yeah. Well, definitely, you're. You mentioned earlier on in the interview how you kind of had the hard kicks and the soul kind of meshing together, and that I think that's what sets your music apart. At least the music that you're producing back then for Music Station, all these labels. You just had this incredible combination of kind of just the hard b-boy kind of beats, but with the real soulful touch, and just every time like one of your records would come on, like just, there's nothing else to do but move, like it's body moving. It's definitely, you definitely had a great concoction, or rather have a great concoction, and you're definitely gifted, man, and we're all lucky to have been a witness to this, and I'm grateful that I was able to discover your music and come across your music, man.
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate that, man. If it did something good for you, what I'm saying, then my job is done,
Exactly.
More so than actually trying to. If it moved you, then great,
moved a lot of people. Are you putting you're putting some stuff out on TrackSource? Are you still regularly putting out some releases on TrackSource.com?
Yeah, what's good? The thing is, since like I told you earlier, I have a couple of acts that are assigned to majors that I'm doing some Latin stuff, and that takes up a lot of my time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But for the most part, like now, like right now, like in July, I'm going to spend 3 weeks. I'm going to go to my mom's house in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And just take my laptop with me and just finish everything all the little pieces that I've been doing, because I do like a little piece here, a little piece there, just to finish and try to do a full 12-song album.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'll do a 12-song album of maybe like 8 tracks and 4 vocals.
Right.
So I already got. Actually, I have. It's embarrassing. I have all the vocals already recorded already. So it's embarrassing. I have a Leon Neal record already recorded. I have another Giant record recorded. I have this guy named Shirin also, who I did sound with, and this guy named Q also from Jersey.
Who was the first name?
Excuse me?
The first person you named was?
Leon Neal.
Oh, right, Leon Neal, of course.
Yeah, Leon Neal is one of my best friends. We talk at least 2-3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
We're still in close touch, and I have maybe 4 or 5 things recorded on him that I've done in the last year.
Oh, wow.
But I have another Giant Storm.
Yeah.
But Storm passed away from Giant Storm, because there's 2 guys in the group. Storm passed away maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still in contact with Giant. So recorded sound with him, and I have another guy from Jersey named Q. He's he's a younger R&B guy, but he wants to do house music. Okay. And another girl from Boston, her name is Shirin. So I have everything's recorded. How's that? I just need to just finish the track. So it's embarrassing.
Well, that's actually that sounds good to me, because if you're gonna do this in the summer, then hopefully by September we can be looking at an album. Yeah.
I'm gonna lock away 3 weeks, and go and just take my laptop and just finish all the tracks from my mom's house in the Caribbean. And just eat good food and do the tracks.
All right.
And then bring it back, and then play it for Brian over at TrackSource to get to tweak it. And also, and then I want to prep the singles before. I want to get everything done when the album comes out. I want to prep the singles, the remixes, everything before, so I don't have to deal with it ever again.
All right.
And so I've already spoken to a called in a couple of favors from a couple of friends. Like I spoke to Benji Candelario,
Right.
who's doing something for me. Omar Alejo, which is another guy. So it's like, just a couple of people who I respect. Phil Asher also.
Yeah, Phil Asher.
These are all people who I want to get all the singles. Like I want to choose. Well, the 4 vocals they're gonna be singles. Just have those remixes, everything done from the beginning.
Oh wow.
Whereas if I could just schedule, 3 to 4 months worth of releases.
And
way,
so MP3 releases via TrackSource exclusively at TrackSource.
See, what I do, it's kind of difficult because it's my friend. Brian's a real good friend, and so I'll give him, at least, a 30-day on that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
Head start on everything. Well, the album, I'll give it to him, for 30 days, and after that. On the vinyl tip, I've been speaking to a couple of people who want to do some vinyl and do some stuff, but it's just the American presses, like the machine, they're using a lot of recycled vinyl here.
Right.
Which is most of it's all recycled at this point. But it's just the pressings here are not sounding good as of lately. I heard some things here that were being pressed at this pressing plant here, and which is one of the local ones in the southeast, and it didn't sound too good.
Oh.
So I'm trying to find somebody to press it right, because that's the problem that we had the first time around. Back in the day, was that a lot of these records weren't pressed right either.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I was when I was getting ready for the show tonight, I forget which record I came across. It's one of the music station records, and it was just it was like a blanket almost. Like it was so malleable,
They weren't pressed right, man.
Yeah.
That's why when I listen to stuff in my studio at from the DATs, they sound. I remember when I did them. But then you hear them on vinyl, and it's like I hear some of these records on YouTube on vinyl, and they sound horrible.
Yeah, it's true, they do. Well, you could always go to, you can always reach out to your friends in Germany and Japan for an arm and a leg, but yeah, they're.
I mean, the numbers are low anyway, so I mean, it's pretty much more for the purists and stuff like that, but just to keep you guys happy.
Yeah, that's very important.
So
very important.
that's kind of like next in line, I mean, if you know that I'm in contact with Jeremy is always telling me from My Love Is Underground. He's always telling me about that. So
you got to put something out on that label, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's something in the works already.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not allowed to talk about it. But
Yeah,
there's
I hear
something in
you.
the works.
Yeah,
This way, he has it already, so he just needs to schedule it. He's doing it right because he's scheduling everything right with the right hype.
Good. Yeah, he's trailblazing right now.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. I think that for the most part, they're keeping to what they believe in.
Yeah.
So that's.
And it's being pushed properly, like even marketing wise, like he's not releasing too much at the same time, so it creates buzz, it creates demand. His records don't even last more than a couple of days.
Organic. I mean, everybody who's following it is all the same type of person. They're like you. They're all the same type of purist, So, and, I mean, what he wants, he's doing it the right way.
Let me ask you: are you? I know you mentioned you're working on some other musical projects, other musical genres. Are you DJing?
Actually, I got a call. I went to Japan last year, in October. It was pretty good. I mean, I got a call to go to Brazil, but I couldn't do it, like in February because I was just been a little bit too busy with the acts that I have them signed also to my company also. So I deal my Latin acts. I deal with the production. I deal with their bookings. I deal with all their stuff. So it's hard for me to get away because I got to prep and stuff like that. So, but for the most part, if it's something that's kind of like, it'd be easier for me to do it in the summer.
All right.
Because things loosen up more. But when they wanted me to go to Brazil, it was kind of like, it was the season, For the most part, it has to be something that I could prep for also and get a nice set together for people to appreciate it,
Yeah. Let me ask you, Eddie, where are you originally from?
I'm Dominican.
Ah, you're Dominican. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Jersey though, but my family is Dominican.
And which part of the Dominican are they from?
From Puerto Plata, from Sosúa, from the North Coast.
Oh, okay, yeah, Puerto Plata.
That's where I'm from. There's some people in Montreal, and I got family that lives in Montreal also.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you got a couple of Dominicans up there.
You gotta let us know when you come up here, man. Let us know in advance, so we can organize something, man. You know?
We should.
I remember.
But definitely would have to be in the summer because I'm not going to be up there during the winter.
How long has it been that you've been in Miami? Like, when did you get out of Jersey?
Like 2002.
2002, and you're loving it down there?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I moved full time 2002, but then in 2003, 2004, I would spend the winters here and the summers up there because I worked with this artist named Lumi D.
Lenny D, yeah.
No, Lumi D.
Oh,
I produced. I produced that record and wrote that record also, which is more of a hip hop R&B thing.
Okay.
And so she's kind of like started functioning. So I was in between New York and Miami. Then I came back down to Miami full time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But I love it down here.
Yeah.
You should come down here, man.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a couple of years. I usually go for the WMC. But yeah, next time I'm... actually, I didn't know until today that you were living in Miami full-time. I thought you were still in Jersey. So, yeah, definitely next time I go down there, I'll definitely let you know about that. All right, my man. Well, listen. Wow, it was really great speaking to you. I want to, once again, thank you for... thank you for everything that you've done for us, the music lovers out there. Even if you may not even realize the magnitude of what you've done, you've really touched a lot of people. And I know this because I speak to a lot of the DJs and dancers, not only here, but everywhere. And a lot of people just, whenever the topic of Eddie Perez comes up, it's just, people get, bothered and disheveled, like it's just, your music has really, really touched a lot of people. And I just want to thank you, and I want to wish you all the best, and I want to hear some more music from you. I don't want it to stop, and I think this is the best way to kind of keep the flame alive by doing these types of interviews and tribute shows, and I encourage other DJs as well and radio show producers to do the same sort of thing. So thank you so much, Eddie.
Yeah, I appreciate the support, man. All right, and God bless, and take care, man. Whatever you need from us, man, you got my contact information. Just let me know, all right?
All right, my man. Peace out, all the best, and we'll speak shortly.
Be good. All right, cool.
Peace. All right, that was the one and only Eddie Perez calling us direct from Miami. We want to thank him once more. And right now, let's get into some music here. Bobby Harding right here. Eddie Perez on the mix. This is Salvation from Sin, 1:47 a.m. We're going straight to 3, nonstop. Eddie Perez, Mentalinstrum, Smack Music. Keep it locked. CJLO, 1690 a.m.